everybody, Rich Malloy here with Module 14, our case study on Slattery Steno High School. To identify our problem, what we know. It's an affluent community. The parents are professionals and powerful people, and it's considered to be the most prestigious school in the state, according to our case study. We know Principal Smith, who has been directing the school for 9 years. 2 years ago, he was the Principal of the Year. He's very well thought of and admired. Our situation draws in Miss Tate. Our science teacher, who's just had a long weekend, came home on Sunday, checked her email, and was routed to a threatening Facebook post with all sorts of lewd and obscene language directed at her in her personal life that asked who wanted to see her vanish. Miss Tate's a highly qualified science teacher, has a master's degree and some postgraduate work. She teaches the highest level of science classes available, probably not available to every student, but very competitive for the AP students trying to be valedictorian, those probably looking at National Honor Society scholarships, etc. She's new to teaching. She's extremely academic. Her classes are known for being very structured, very rigorous. The learning environment is very, very tense, and Principal Smith has received complaints. He's responded by offering her suggestions to improve the classroom temperament, if you will. Ease student stress, lower the workload, make it a more positive environment. She's not taking advantage of these suggestions. What we need to know is, were the emails private or school accounts? If they were school accounts, it seems to me we're looking at the use of school property. That would be a clue as to who we're looking for, but it would also seem to indicate a problem with violating policy. If they were private, how did the person contact her on a private email address? What is the Slattery Steno High School Internet and Cyberbullying policy? We need to examine that. Was Principal Smith's reaction too light? Did Miss Tate feel blown off, if you will, by the presumption that it was a prank? She thinks it's a threat. She thinks she's in danger. What kind of records of complaints are available? Does Miss Tate have a list of disciplinary actions she's taken, a list of students who've been in detention, for example, something like that? Does Principal Smith have a record of the complaints, the emails, etc., to get a feel for what the context is? Why was the student William immediately accused of this by the teacher? We need to know if the staff has received anything like this in the past, and we need to know if the tech staff is going to be able to trace the email. Moving on, the problem is that we need to ensure the safety of students and staff and assess and identify threats that occur and are present. We have to be very careful. Anything that we have must be proven. We can't just accuse somebody without proof in the alleged fault of anyone by anybody else, whether it's blaming a teacher, whether it's blaming a student. We need supportive evidence. That may take some time. We need to engage the tech staff to trace the email sender. We need to look at the policy. Who knows the policy? If we ask staff, students, and parents, and we're going to, could they restate accurately what that policy is, and are they following it? Possible revisions might be necessary. We need to explore if the consequences of this policy are appropriate to cover both a legitimate crime or an immature prank. And finally, we need to examine if this situation was taken seriously when it was reported. This is a district concern on liability and how we support the teachers or somehow or other push the blame on them in the workplace. So our plan of action is going to take 4 different directions here. 1, we need to think about Miss Tate. We need to arrange a substitute on Monday. We can do that immediately on Sunday night. I say we, I mean the principal. We report the incident to the district administrator. There may be a procedure for that, but we need to document this immediately. When we come in Monday morning, we'll start with a meeting with Ms. Tate and Principal Smith, and that's got to be a two-way conversation. We have a new teacher who seems to be somewhat humiliated by the experience, is understandably upset. I think we need to let her talk for a while about whether she feels like she's a part of the community, whether she feels like she's somehow not been supported. And we need to pay attention to the classroom, I was going to say temperature, culture that she's had, and how we can improve that to make it better. Not just for the students, but better for the students and for her. This can't be a good situation for anybody. The investigation from the IT staff must be immediate. We'll talk about that in the next page. It's a top priority. And we're going to have an afternoon staff faculty meeting. She's not to be singled out. We maintain her confidentiality. But she needs to know what the plan of action is and where it's going. Our second step is going to go and talk to the students and their families. We need a school-wide discussion of cyberbullying, and that starts in a number of ways. Discussion of the threats not specific to Ms. Tate or even this particular situation. We're going to, as a school, generate a letter directly to the students' parents about the threat. We're going to review the policy, and we're not going to work in secret. We're looking for input and collaboration. We will be speaking with the students of concern, those who in Ms. Tate's class have had detentions or classroom incidents. This isn't necessarily a punitive exercise, but we need to find out what the perception is, what the feeling is, and maybe how we can improve it. And we're going to schedule a parent forum for input on cyber safety. So, somewhat repetitively, Monday after school, maybe we'll have a special schedule so that all the coaches and everyone with an extracurricular is still involved. We're going to meet with IT staff and faculty, required. We need to find out who sent the email and whether it was on high school property, using high school property, devices, computers, the email system, etc. Is that a safe system? Do the students have access to private email addresses, phone numbers, Facebook? You'd like to say no, but an honest conversation, I can see where coaches would communicate with their athletes and so on and so forth. If they have access to staff Facebook accounts, they have access to Facebook friends, that may be a problem there. We need to find out if that is a reality. We need to find out if anyone in staff or faculty has had patterns of similar threats. Has this happened in the past? If Ms. Tate is not as engaged, as much of a part or belonging with a peer group, she may be unaware of things that have happened. We need to figure that out. And we need to know and understand the policy. If we don't understand it, why is that? What can we do to make that more prominent? And we need to ask if the staff feel safe, and if not, why not? We need to look at the consequences for whoever sent that particular email, the source of this situation, under our current policy. So if we find fault with the policy, we have to improve it going forward. The letter that's drafted Monday afternoon is sent out. It states and acknowledges the situation, the steps the staff member, faculty, and students are taking, that the cyber policy is under review, and we're going to have a meeting at 7 p.m. Monday of the next week to bring parents in, to give people their say. We want to give people enough time that they can clear their schedules and be there. We don't want to drop a meeting on people that they can't possibly get to. We do not want a knee-jerk reaction, so it's optimistically hoped that our investigation will have gotten somewhere in the week, and maybe we have identified the source. But I think our primary focus long range has to be on the policy. And we need their input on cyber safety efforts and suggestions, and maybe their criticism. Emphasis on keeping everybody safe. So we can go to our cyberbullying policy here in the short term, meet with students immediately, maybe in homerooms or small groups. How do they understand internet safety? And did they get it from anything we've taught them, or did they pick it up elsewhere? What's accurate? Do they understand our school policies? The Parents Forum Review how they perceive that same policy. Does it connect? Is there a disconnect? Do they feel like their children are safe? And that's the big question for the parents. Are they safe from bullying? Are they safe from being investigated arbitrarily or punished for no particular reason? Is the severity of the consequences offered in the current policy adequate? Do they need to be changed? Are impacts long range? With the board members, whom does our policy protect? Does it just protect the students and leave the teachers at risk and to blame? Does it give faculty a chance to somehow or other punish students? We need to look and see if it's equitable. How well does it protect? What are we missing? Is it updated? Is it out of date? Does it protect equally students and staff? I think I said that. Are her consequences accurate for what we're trying to do? Does it guard against liability? Can we be sued for this? We all need to think about this long term. Category 3, what's best for the students? A safe environment for students and staff, protected from harm, follow appropriate action. If the person is in Ms. Kate's class, we need to remove the student, make sure it's a disciplinary consequence, not an academic one. Neither Ms. Kate nor the source of the emails can be identified. We need to follow FERPA, and we need to follow fairness. Input of all as policy is reviewed. In terms of what I'm thinking, I want to maintain a culture of student success and student safety, and we need to continually improve. We need to listen to the concerns of Ms. Kate. Does she feel isolated? Is she disconnected from her peers? Is she included in the community? If not, what can we do? Maybe staff development as a group, not just directed to her, would do something to better the culture. Does this situation reflect classroom struggles? And if so, have I done enough as a leader to help beyond just offering suggestions? How can I improve the experience? What does the situation tell us about our prestigious school? What am I feeling? Again, if this is a reaction, what's it a reaction to? We need to figure that out. We need to make sure our consequences are appropriate both for the immature 9th grader in mom and dad's basement or 12th grader offering a real threat as their National Honor Society hopes or whatever their future plans are threatened with low grades. Does everyone know and respect our policies? We cannot let promising teachers fail. Have we done enough to help and include to avoid that failure, build connections? Have we addressed all the publics in updating policies with their input? Will there be liability to the district, school, myself from my own actions? Category 4, what do I value? Safety, confidentiality, collaboration, and fairness. I need to be promoting a safe learning environment. I need to make sure I protect the confidentiality of everybody involved. I need to make sure that this is a collaborative process. I'm getting input and maybe criticism from parents, students, I guess the families, just to trap it, from staff, directive from the directions from the district. And have I acted in a way that empowers staff using fair practices? Am I putting staff at a disadvantage? I want to make sure everybody has their say. In applying Standard 5, we talk about a leader applying knowledge that promotes the success of every student with integrity, fairness, and ethical manner. Operating with integrity means listening to Ms. Tate, not lecturing to her, as well as listening to parents and students, and being open to suggestions, not accusations, and not being defensive. Integrity means immediate communication to parents to keep them abreast of the investigation, and we act with integrity by ensuring confidentiality. We act with fairness to avoid accusing and labeling students without proof. Fairness, applying our consequences. We'll change the policy in the future if needed with different ones. And fairness with compassion for a struggling teacher, not humiliating. And ethical behavior, not emotional overreacting, making an example. Not public attacks on a victim from staff, students, or parents. Working to include the teacher and community, empowering them, and taking ownership of our own mistakes. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed this class. I've enjoyed learning with you.